Before we get started, anyone interested in ordering Mr. Lindell's 4-CD set, go to metaphysicalarttheater.com. For those in the U.S., you can order physical copies or the digital downloads. For those outside the U.S., you can order the digital downloads by going to metaphysicalarttheater.com.
How you doing? This is Coach DeCarlo. You're about to listen to the first part of a two-part series called Law and Order. Enjoy. How you doing, sir?
Just fine, thank you. How are you doing?
We're doing great. As you know, I'm having some problems with my camera, so this is going to be a one-way interview. It's going to pretty much be your pretty face, but my pretty face will not be on there. But today's topic, we're going to be talking about law and order. Now, we always say that we're given to choose, and as you think you are. So there's an order to the law. Is that correct?
Now, there's an order to everything. Everything has an order, unless it's chaos.
So many people are operating from chaos then. Is that correct?
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. Everybody does really most of the time in their life because they're not paying attention to what they're thinking about. And it says very plainly, as you think, you are. So there you are. You can mess yourself up in a moment. If you don't change your mind, you don't change your world, right?
Absolutely. And you said it. You said, listen, as you think you are. And that's the order. When we understand that thinking makes it so, then we can get on track.
Yeah, well, thoughts are things, right?
Yes.
Well, and look around you. There's thousands and thousands of things. But where did it come from? Out of the mind of man. What are you thinking about? People are always asking, well, what can I do? What should I do? Well, do something. See, that's it. Do something. Because if you're doing nothing, that's exactly where you are. Nothing. Do something. Think of something to do that is beneficial to you and everyone around you, because you can, and you really should, because it's enlightening to you as well as it is helpful to others. Isn't that so?
Yes. And you said something, and I think that many people don't know this or they let it get by. You said, think of something to do that's beneficial not only to you, but it's beneficial to others. And that's the key of success. When we're seeking to benefit not only ourselves, but others, then of course, what we do is become a magnet to more success.
Yeah, that's it. But remember this, your talking is a magnet, and it draws to you like thoughts and ideas. So think only on things lovely and of good report was actually that was the medicine everyone's looking for. Think only on things that are lovely and of good report. That's your medicine. And if you don't take it regularly, well, okay, attitude. It's really an attitude. It's all about attitude. You know, just staring at you, smiling at me. That changeless expression just kind of gets you. No, I really do hope they understand that what we're trying to tell them is that they're on all the time, and be careful about being on all the time, because you're talking to yourself even while I'm talking to you. So you're talking to yourself continuously. But what are you saying? Do you really know what you're saying to yourself, what you're suggesting to yourself? Because you are doing so. You're on all the time. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you said you said, listen, you're talking to yourself all the time. And you said that our conversation is actually ordering our world. So you said everything around you is the byproduct of somebody's conversation. Then you said, think only on what's lovely and what's of a good report. Now, that's a challenge because that's kind of difficult for many of us.
Oh yeah, it was difficult for everybody, and it really isn't, but it does seem to be difficult. It's just that you haven't started, and that's where everybody gets stopped. They don't get started. Once you get started, once you get involved in it, and you start drawing to yourself other ideas that build up that idea, and you with it. So you're on all the time. God, really, you have to consider that you're actually on all the time. And as a matter of fact, as I've said it before, every word must be accounted for. And if if that don't scare you into being quiet, I don't know what will. Think about it. Isn't that right?
It is right. You said, listen, every word must be accounted for. Somebody had put something in a post, and the question was, if I'm thinking at a conscious level and I can only think so many thoughts, then how is it that I'm manifesting all this other stuff? And I told him that subconscious mind is doing so much more than we can act, think, and or imagine. So even when we're thinking that we're not thinking about something at a subconscious level, we're thinking.
That's right. You're on all the time. Just put it that way and you'll remember it. You're on all the time and you're running off at the mouth or talking to yourself, which that you should really watch what you're saying to yourself, because there you'll say things that you really wouldn't say out loud. We all know about that. It's your attitude about life in general. That's what you're facing morning, noon, and night. Your general attitude about life in general. What is it? Do you know? Have you ever sat down and really considered what are your attitudes about life in general? Because you know all of these things that we're telling you, they're valuable for you to actually operate from, because you're operating the power, not a power. You're operating the power. The power. What is your attitude about life in general? Do you really know? I mean, have you even really considered it? Because that's your life. That's your everydayness. And that's what you're following, aware or unaware. And what we're doing is we're trying to get you to be aware of what you're talking to yourself about, what you're suggesting to yourself, because that winds up being your life. And once it becomes your daily life, it's difficult to get rid of, because it takes the same thing to get rid of it that it took to get it, is that you were paying attention to it. And what has your attention has your life. Are you considering what you're giving your life to when you're thinking feelingly about something? Because that's what it is you're doing. You're giving your life to that idea. Attitude awareness and imaginational control, you get to stroll through. But you have to show up. You have to show up and claim your inheritance. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. And you were talking about self-talk and you went into attitude. And I think that a lot of times, like I said, we know what we do at a conscious level, those things that we're purposely thinking about. But the kicker is, as you stated earlier, your attitude and that self-talk that many of us aren't even aware of. There's certain things that I will catch myself saying to myself, and I'll say, where did that come from? And then I'll ask myself, do I want to live this ideal out? Do I want to bring this ideal into fruition? And I think a lot of times, many of us ride the ideal to its end, and then we say, why is this happening to me?
Yeah. Why? Attitude, attitude, attitude. Montaigne tells us, listen to your attitudes. That's all you have to do. And it'll tell you what you're doing, where you're going, and what you're going to be when you get there. If you do want to know what you're going to be doing, all you have to do is watch your own inner conversations, because that's what you're feeding on. You see, and that's what you're experiencing. And you wonder, where does it come from? It comes from right here, where everything comes from. It doesn't matter if I point this way or this way. It's that just brought up a funny thought. Somebody said, on this side or on that side. Don't worry about that. Just do it. It says do a thing. You understand that? It says do a thing. What thing? Well, I don't know. What do you want to do? It says do a thing and you shall have the power, not a power, the power. See, I keep telling you that over and over because I want you to really focus on the idea that you're really in charge. You may not be aware you're in charge, and that's everybody's problem, but you are in charge and you are choosing constantly. But you're not paying attention all the time. You're not paying attention consciously all the time. And so you really don't know what you're thinking. So you don't know what's coming up and you get a lot of surprises in your life. But if you knew what you were thinking and feeling, and that's what you were projecting out, what you were thinking and feeling, then you know where you're going, what you're doing, and why. Because you chose it. And that's what you're told to do. Choose this day, and you're doing so aware or unaware. All we're trying to do is tell you to aware is better, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. You had made mention earlier about us being mindful of that inner conversation, and it goes back to what we were saying earlier about subconscious mind. The thing is, subconscious mind is doing millions of things all at one time, where at a conscious level, we're thinking 2 or 3 thoughts, and we're saying, well, I've only given my attention to this. And it's just not so, because, like I said, subconscious mind is thinking about things we don't even realize are being thought about, because we've given like a little bit of attention, a slight bit of attention, and then we say, well, I didn't do that. But of course, as you know, if it's showing up in our world, we're responsible.
That's it. You wanted evidence? Just look at your world, what you're doing, what you're being, what you're thinking. That's your world. But you have the opportunity this day. And like I said, it's always this day. You have an opportunity today to change your mind, change your world. You're not doing the changing your world. Changing your mind does that. You see, the first does the second. So you're not obligated to go out and laboriously put a world together. That's subconscious minds taking your model as you think you are and produces your world of everydayness in exact detail. I mean, and when I say that, that brings up, again, Albert Einstein. He said he wanted to know God's thoughts, that the rest were merely details. So what is it that you're focusing on? You see, because what has your focus, what has your attention, has your life. So what are you paying attention to? And that's the only question. If you just stop and ask yourself once in a while and do it, so you understand, you're asking yourself, what is it that I was thinking about it? And then when you see what you were thinking about, do I want to do that? I mean, do I want to follow through with that? Do I want to follow up on it? If not, well, then drop it. And when you drop it, that means you let it go completely. That it'll pop up now and then. But then as long as you keep refusing it, you see, because all denial is self-denial. If you listen to it, even for a moment, it'll start drawing to it like ideas, and then you've got a problem. So just pay attention to what you're talking to yourself about, and that'll cure most of your problems right away, don't you say?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The thing is, you say that and it sounds so simple, because it is. Now, because we've been so preconditioned, you often call that habitual thinking. It's not always easy for us, because we've gotten into a rut of thinking a certain type of way. And so this is a small practice each day, just kind of just being mindful of what you're thinking about and catching yourself. The thing is, once we start catching ourselves, that's the clincher. You start saying, oh, that's not what I want to think. And so you said, drop it. Now, many people say, well, how do you drop it? You drop it by replacing that thought that you don't want with a new desirable thought. Mr. Lindell calls that what's lovely and of a good report.
Yes. I mean, why tell you to think only on things lovely and of good report, and then tell you that as you think you are? To me, that stands out like that thing that people are mostly asking for. They say, can you make it simple? I would call that simple, wouldn't you?
I'm glad you brought that up, because sometimes I'll get messages on YouTube and somebody says, well, can you simplify it? I don't know how to make it any simpler than as you think you are. I mean, we add other bits of conversation between the as you think you are, but the message, the core message is as you think you are, choose you this day.
That's it. You were given choose this day. If you don't like what you're doing, well, then choose this day. It's always this day. I brought that up time and time again, but choose this day. It's always this day. So you're on all the time, and you have a chance to change what's going on in your world, or with a new idea that you'll focus on. Because the longer you're focused on it, the more it's going to draw to it, like ideas, which build it up. That's what self and risen. That's what we're told. So I love those magic words that they put in there, and I like that. Think only on things lovely and of good report. If you're thinking only on things lovely and of good report, and as you think you are, that you got it made. I mean, you want it simple. I think that sounded simple to me, didn't it? To you?
Absolutely. You made me think about the book. It was The 1 Minute Manager is what it was called. And the whole point of the 1 Minute Manager was for the person to catch their employees doing something right. Often managers wait on you to do something wrong, and then they say, well, you did this wrong, you did this wrong. But this is the same concept that we're talking about. Don't keep focusing on the negative. Mr. Lindell will often say, and scripture confirms this, blessed is the man, the woman who does not condemn themselves for the things which they've allowed. So forget about what you're doing wrong and start thinking about catching yourself doing something right and then repeating that.
You get through your day doing more things right than you do wrong. I mean, generally, I would, if you're a sound mind and got enough sleep and all of that. But it's always up to you to plan what you're going to do tomorrow, today. You see, then it's not a question to think about it when you first get up. But I'll tell you this, if you would take the first half an hour when you wake up in the morning and center yourself, you'll find that all your decisions during the day will follow that centering yourself. But if you don't do that, then it can run chaotic enough to not have a great day. Let's put it that way. So you have an opportunity every morning when you wake up. Choose this day. And that's what you're doing. You're choosing this day. How are you choosing this day? Is it lovely and of good report? Only you know that. But you see, that's the whole thing. It's what you know. That's what you're doing. That's what you're facing. And you're facing your problems because it's what you know and it's what you're thinking about. What are you thinking about morning, noon, and night? I know you're not paying attention all the time. I'm more than aware of that. But that's a reason for the failure rate, see. But if you develop the right attitude about thinking and feeling, because it is thinking, feeling that you're actually experience. It's your thinking ahead of the experiences you're going to experience, because you're choosing this day, rather you're aware you're doing so or not. All we're trying to do is to get you more aware of what you're actually thinking about. It's your world of experiencing. I think that makes it worth it, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And you said something. You said, listen, you do more thinking right than you do thinking wrong. And this is absolutely correct. And I say that because if you look at the news, what they'll do is show you all the incidents of people doing wrong. But you have to understand. And so many of us believe, and I sometimes get caught up in the trap, many of us believe that, man, the world's just gone amok. But that's such a small percentage of people that are being focused on. 99% of the world is doing the right thing. It's that 1% that's getting all the press.
Yeah, of course. I mean, how many students graduate from college every year? And how many of them have police records? You see, it's a very, very small percentage. Very small percentage if you look at it like that. But if all you're getting is the negative news, then even a little bit seems like a lot of negative.
Agreed.
Did that come out right?
It did. It did. You know, if I was next to you on the screen, you would see me nod my head. And see, that's the disadvantage of not having both images. But you said something earlier, and I was just like nodding my head, like, yes, 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 yes. You know, and of course, only thing you have is this still picture of me with a big old smile on my face. But absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all I have.
So I'll try to interject a little bit more so that you at least know that I'm in agreement with you there. You said something earlier. You said, listen, change your mind and change your world. And the first does the second. And we often say that through the talks and so forth. And I think that some people may hear that and they fully don't understand what's being said. When you change what it is that you're thinking about, almost immediately the world without is in the process of change. The key is sticking to what it is that you're thinking about, if it's something that you want to manifest in your world. The second you get off that track, then you start a new change process in the world.
Yep. You're given. Now it's already given. It's not something you're waiting for. It's not something you're trying to be good for. No, you're given. Choose this day. And everything is open to you. I didn't see any parameters on choose this day. So he's obviously not concerned with what you'll do, because as I understand it, is that he didn't give you anything to do, but you are doing. So that means you're choosing it. And that's exactly what he told you to do. Choose this day. And you are doing so. We're just trying to make you aware that you are doing so, choosing your day. And if it's not going right, well, you have an opportunity to set it right. Isn't that right?
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, we're talking about choose you this day. You're absolutely correct when you say that there were no parameters. The parameter was whatever or whatsoever, depending upon what version of the Bible you're looking at. And then he goes on to say, listen, I heal, I kill, I make alive, I do all these things, and none can deliver from my hands. But the hands, it's often said, the mouth of God is the mind of man. So God is using us as his instrument. So when we're choosing on the behalf of God. And as Mr. Lindell will often say, and God will not even interrupt your choosing.
No. He gave you choose this day. Now, to me, coming from anybody else, you might think, oh, well, maybe it'll be, but no, this is from God. So if you believe God's promises to you, and there are several, I don't remember how many there are now. Well, anyway, but you have a lot of promises from God. And if it's God giving you to do, then he knows you can do if you'll make up your own mind to do a thing, and you shall have the power. See, that's what you have to work with. You don't have just what's here to work with. You have the power to work with, because look, there's only one power. So that is the power you're working. There's only God. I mean, right off, it tells you in the beginning, God. That's it, God. And then everything followed is what he's created. And it's all creative out of the mind of man on the earth. As well, you just look around you. That's what's gotten created out of the mind of man. So what are you imagining? Because all of these, everything had to be first imagined. I mean, I'm sure we're clear on that. It has to be imagined. So who's imagining? Man. I mean, bridges, tall buildings, highways, all these things had to be thought of before they were made. You see, that's what you're doing. You're building your world thought by thought. Is it going the way you want? I mean, it's up to you to check in on yourself as to what you're thinking feelingly about, because it's going to be your world. It's not falling into the past. See, I thought that for years it was falling into the past. I said that yesterday, a week ago, a month ago, a year ago. But consciousness doesn't forget. And your world is as you think you are. So if you'll change your thinking as you are, then you'll be changed. And it doesn't matter what religion or whatever, it's as you think you are. Look at that. Look at that for a time. Really sit down and think about that and see where you wind up. Confused maybe, but if you'll keep at it, you'll get it. I mean, that the whole thing is that do a thing. It doesn't say try, it says do it. So do it. If you just keep doing it, and it's not about worthiness, it's about willingness. If you're willing to keep trying, to keep feeling after, you'll do, and all you have to do really to get it is really just relax. Because I find that when I was having problem in the beginning was I was always kind of fighting with myself to push, to shove, to just habitualness out of your daily life, pushing and shoving things around to get things done. But it's not done that way in mine. It is as you think you are, you do, you have, you be. And if that doesn't scare the hell out of you, I don't know what will.
You said something. You often would say, listen, you either stroll in or you don't get in. So it goes back to us relaxing. And I think a lot of times what we're trying to do is manipulate, force the hand of God. And, we're saying, well, this stuff doesn't work. But when you get into a relaxed state and realize it's done, and you start living from it being already done, it's so, then that's when we begin to expedite our manifestation.
That's it. You see, the thing you want to really understand is that you are in charge. You're given charge of your thinking and feeling. If you'll order your thinking and feeling in line with what you desire, you'll have it. But that's if you'll do the thing, if you'll do the work. And the work is to train yourself to be still long enough to actually get the results of what you got in line to think about, so that you can choose better your everydayness. And you are choosing. You're choosing you're choosing your everydayness. Just sometimes there's a lot of chaos involved, but that's just because we're allowing outside around us to choose what we're thinking about. Look, you're either choosing or the world's choosing for you. It's as simple as that. And if you can't choose better than the world's choosing for you, well, then go with the world, I guess. But you can, believe me, you're given. And how can you can you be blamed for doing it wrong unless you could have done it right? Isn't that a thought to think about?
It is a thought to think about. You said something. You said you're in charge. And scripture calls that being in charge dominion. And it says that God has given us dominion over the birds, the air, the flock, the earth. And basically what we're saying is over our thought life. So those other things are allegories, but we've been given dominion over our thought life. And as Mr. Lindell will often say, you're given to choose this day. And he says it's always this day. So in other words, you're always choosing.
That's right. You're on all the time. and not being aware that I don't know. I really don't know about not being aware.